Welcome to today's Missionary. We are in Matthew chapter 10, and today's reflection is on verse 9. So the context here is that Jesus is going through the towns, preaching the kingdom of heaven is near, healing the sick, every kind of disease. He comes into some crowds and has compassion on them because they are harassed and helpless, and then tells his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest field." Then he calls them to himself to give them authority to heal and to deliver. And then he lists the names of the apostles, the disciples. And then he tells them, don't go into the Gentiles or into any towns of Samaria. And then he says, as you go preach this message, the kingdom of heaven is near, just what he was doing. Heal the sick, raise the dead, just what he was doing. And now he's giving them authority to do this. Cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you have received, freely give. Do not take along any gold or silver or copper in your belts. These are instructions. These are the instructions he's giving them to be sent out. This is probably one of the most I have to use the right words here. This is probably one of the most focused on issues in missionary sending. And today, basically, if you want to go as a missionary, you, in some cases, almost have to have a business plan and prove to the people who are sending you that you are going to have a good business. You're going to return on their investment. It's cost effective. Well, this is very, very far away from this concept that Jesus is telling his disciples here. These are not suggestions to them. These are instructions to them. He is telling them, do not take along any gold or copper or silver in your belts. And he's very specific as to the three types of coin that they are not to take. And then he also says, take no bag for the journey or extra tunic or sandals or staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Now, what is your keep? Food, clothing. The pagans run after such things. They worry about what they will eat or what they will drink or what they will wear. These things that the authors of the New Testament wrote down for us, they wrote them down because God was behind what they wrote. And because that presence of God was with them, they were very careful of what to write. And so all of these words that Jesus is saying here were very carefully written down by God through these men. God is telling us what Jesus said. God the Father is telling us how Jesus sent. And God the Father is telling us what to do through these words as we are sent. And this seems to be the most ridiculous thing that you could possibly tell someone in today's day and age. Don't take any money. Jesus is not necessarily trying to set a precedent here. He's not necessarily trying to establish some great, deep truth. He's just saying it for the simple facts. The worker is worth his keep. You will get it along the way. Don't worry about it. I will be with you till the end of the age. Jesus is accompanying us in this journey. The Holy Spirit is with us. The angels are with us. And if we go and we do these simple things and we don't add to them or take away from them, and we don't try to make them more than they really are, and we ourselves put as much focus and attention and preoccupation on them as Jesus did when he tells us this, we'll be okay. And basically, he's saying, forget about it. Don't worry about it. It's cool. You'll be all right. Do not take any gold or copper in your belts. I don't know how Jesus toned these things. I don't know the tone of his voice, the expressions on his face. But if we look at the context and we allow the Holy Spirit to speak to us, it's not a big deal. His teaching is basically saying, don't worry about that part. Don't worry about what you think you need to be sent. I'm telling you, you don't need any of this to be sent. It will get provided to you. God will move on the hearts of the people you are going to give you your food, give you your clothing, and give you your shelter. Because he's saying, don't take extra clothing. Don't take these things that don't say, I'm about to be sent, but I need to go back because I don't have my staff and I don't have my bag and I don't have my sandals and I probably will need a change of clothes and I probably need to take some money. And if I don't have any money, well, then I have to go around to my people and ask them to help me with the money. And Jesus is saying, don't worry about what's behind you. They're already out in the towns. They're already going with Jesus. Jesus is already doing this to give them example. And so now he's saying, from here, go, and don't go here and don't go there. Stay within this area. And don't worry about what's behind. You don't need to go acquire something you think you might need. God is going to take care of his workers. Now, our problem is that we get our minds and we start to worry about what we're going to drink and what we're going to eat and what we're going to wear and where our children are going to go to school and what kind of vehicle and, what kind of teaching and training and learning we're going to need. And we get so tied up in the process of getting ready, most don't ever go. That's right. Or they go for such a short period of time because they went anyway without what everyone told them they were going to need, that they end up coming back because they got there thinking, okay, if I just go and I just be obedient and I'm going to the mission field, God will eventually take care of all of these needs that I think I need, and they don't happen. And well, maybe I wasn't supposed to go because my people didn't get behind me on this issue of the gold and the silver and the copper. But Jesus, in the middle of a long list of instructions, because these instructions go on, in the middle of a long list of instructions, and in the middle of two other concepts that are very important, freely have you received, freely give. Whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person and stay there at his house until you leave. Worthy. A person who's going to be considerate of the needs of the people who are bringing the message that the kingdom of heaven is near, and who are bringing healing and deliverance to my home. I'm obviously going to offer, can I get you some food? Can I get you something to drink? I'm very grateful that you're here. So this very short passage is where we get hung up as missionaries. We could go into this for a lot longer. And I could give you examples. If you talk to a lot of missionaries who have been on the field for many years, a lot of them are going to tell you they went with less than they thought they needed. And God has always been faithful, and God has always taken care of them. I myself can testify to that. I've been on the mission field for many years. God has always been faithful. God has always taken care of me and mine. I've debated about telling some examples of my own personal experience. On my very first missionary trip, I didn't really know that all these things that Jesus was saying really apply to me today. It just so happens that I had very little, and I went on my very first trip to where the gospel had not been taken before. And I was in a little town at a fruit market getting some fruit because I had very little. And someone was standing next to me and said, "Are you a Christian?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Come to my house. Let's eat breakfast." He was a Christian himself, and he was in the town right before you get to this unreached area where people spoke a different language. They didn't speak the national language. And he too was trying to get into this area where the gospel hadn't been taken before. And he sat down with me. We ate breakfast together. We had some fellowship, some good fellowship. And he took me back to the little market, and he bought for me a bag, a wool bag, so that I could put the fruit in it. There was my bag that I got along the way. There was my food that I got along the way. Not very long after that, I am accompanying a missionary into an unreached area, a different area, who had a heart attack and could not go up into the villages where he was taking the gospel. But before he had his heart attack, he took me up into this village where he was working. They did not speak the national language. They spoke a different language as well. So he has his heart attack and couldn't go up into the mountains. And so I'm on my way myself to continue on with this work that he was starting. I'm at the foot of the mountains, and an older man was at the foot of the mountains who had come down out of that same village and said, "Where are you going?" And I says, "I'm going up there." And he extended out his hand and gave me a little staff, a little walking stick, because to get up into those mountains was not an easy thing. It was a very rocky, steep, difficult path. So here's my bag, here's my food, here's my staff. This is just one example. And there may be some real reasons behind why Jesus is telling us these things. Maybe it's so that we can have favor with the people because we are receiving what they have to give us. In rural areas where the gospel hasn't gotten today, the few of the things that the people will have to offer us is a little bit of shelter, a little bit of food, and a little bit of something to drink. If they happen to offer us clothes, well, then we are wearing the clothes that they wear. If you don't take an extra tunic, eventually it's going to get dirty. You're going to have to wash it. And while it's being washed, what are you going to wear? You're going to wear the clothing that the people wear. So over the years of these kinds of trips, I've seen this over and over again. We don't need to take anything. We don't need to take these things that we think are essential. The more we get tied up in the act of looking for what we think we will need, we are shortening the time that we could be out in the field getting the things that the people themselves are going to give us. Maybe gaining favor or maybe opening doors to the gospel because we were humble enough to receive what the people had. We were humble enough to eat their food, to eat what is set before us. We're going to see these over and over again as we read the Gospels. These instructions that Jesus is giving us are instructions. In one version, he charged them with these concepts. He is commending us. He is commanding us. He's not giving us an option as to what we think we should do before we are sent. He's telling us what we should do. And he's giving a very simple reason why. He's not explaining himself. He's just, in a very short way, saying, people will recognize that your work is valid. that they'll be the vessels by which God will take care of you. Find these worthy people. Stay in that house. I could say a lot more, but I don't want to complicate it. Jesus did not complicate this. Why would I want to complicate it? And even the examples I give to you, I give with much care and fear of the Lord, because we can't add too much to this. This is the reflection for today. Don't go beyond what is written. Just take it, accept it. Don't think too much about it. This is why it's going to take 2 years for you to slow down your life, get into a place without any distractions, and reflect on these. Because when it comes time for you to be sent, you're going to need to have these deepened within you. Have the faith that God is actually sending us in a correct, responsible manner. God is responsible for the extension of His kingdom on earth. We are praying for His will to be done and His kingdom to come on earth as it is in heaven. Take care, and God bless.